guys, welcome to this new video. Today I'm going to show you how to clone an existing repository. And there are two ways to clone an existing repository. You can either clone SSH or you can clone HTTPS. So let's go to the terminal and let me show you the magic. Now, like I was saying earlier, let's try to clone an existing repository. So in our DevOps Easy Learning account called Dev Support, we have this repository here called test. So let's go ahead and clone test. To clone a repository, you come right here where it says code in green, and you click the drop down menu here. There are two ways to clone this code. For example, you can either clone HTTPS or you can clone SSH. So let's try and clone HTTPS for now. So I will go ahead and click there. And I only need to go to my terminal and type git clone and pass that in. Okay, if I say ls, as you guys can see, I've cloned actually this repository with HTTPS. Now, one difference that if you clone a repository with HTTPS and actually work on that repository, when it's time to commit your code back to GitHub, you will have to provide your username and the token. So that's the difference. So if you clone HTTPS, just be mindful that you will have to provide your username and token and token to be able to push back. So cloning HTTPS and it's easy. Now you can also clone HTTPS or the public and private repository. But if you ever go ahead and make a change on that, you will have to provide your username and actually the token to be able to commit that code back. Now, and also on GitHub, you can clone and change the name. If I recall the command, for example, I can decide to clone this and call it, for example, target, right? I can call it target. When I say git clone target, technically, when you clone a repository, I want you to pay attention. If you look at this, it says test.git. So in reality, this is the name of the repository here. When we clone here, we end up with this. So when you clone a repository, you will end up with it. So .git is just an extension. So, and then we have this one here, which is actually the name of the repository. Now, you can decide to clone a repository and change the name. Let's say, for example, if I want to clone this repository now, it will throw an error. Git will tell me that the destination already exists. Why? Because I'm trying to clone this repository here, and it exists already. But if I say git clone and say target, for example, hit enter. As you guys can see, it is the same repository. So Git actually cloned a repository, but instead of calling it test, it call it target. So that is how sometimes you can clone the same repository multiple times, right? Because sometimes you want to clone the same repository, for example, but multiple times, right? It is very important. Sometimes you want to clone a repository multiple times. Now, also one thing that I want to show you is that you can clone a specific branch, right? On a repository, you can clone a specific branch. So let's go ahead and remove everything here, for example. On a repository, you can clone a specific branch. So here on this repository, I have two branches. Now, if I come down here, so let me start again. If I say here git clone, let's clone this test repository here. If I cd into test, if I do, by the way, if I say ls, you see that I clone this repository and everything that you see here is actually everything that is here, right? So you have all this directory here. They are actually the directory that end up here. Because if I see ls-l, you're going to see that they are all this directory, which basically match what we have here. So now, if I say git branch, for example, it is telling me that I am on the branch main. My branch is actually main. So if I say git branch, my branch is actually main. Now, what can I do if I want to clone, let's say, a specific branch? I don't want to clone the main branch. Maybe I am working on the canary branch, right? Maybe I'm working on the canary branch. So, or maybe I'm working on the FF branch. So what do I do to go ahead and actually clone that branch, which is different? Now, let's clone this feature 01 branch, for example. So I will go there and add a file so that you see the difference, because it seems to look like the main branch. So I will say docker compose.yaml, for example, and I will just type something there, hello world. I will commit this. Hello world has double L. I will commit this. So this branch will end up, right, as you can see, this feature 01 branch end up having this called docker compose. How do I clone that specific branch? So if I click here, clone, I go back. Let me go back here, and then let's say ls. Let me remove this test. As you guys can see, when I tap ls, I don't see anything. To clone a specific branch, you will say git clone, you pass that and you say -b, right? Which stands for branch, right? -b, which stands for branch, because if I say git clone, -help, as you guys can see, it will tell me that -b is actually for branch. So you pass -b, it is located, should be located somewhere here. This here, -b, stand for branch. Instead of pointing to a newly created head branch, pointing to a clone repository. So you will go ahead and say -branch, -b, or you say -branch. So it's up to you. So it is either you say git clone, pass this git clone say git clone, you pass this. Then you say -b, or you want to say branch, but -b is better. So you say -b, then you give the branch name, which is feature 01, right? Now if I hit enter, Git will clone, but Git clone only that branch, right? Git clone, but Git only clone that branch. Now, what's going to happen is that if I say cd into, because when I clone that, I end up with test. If I say cd into test, I'll say ls, you will see that I have here docker compose.yaml, which is what I have here. But if I go here on the main branch, I don't have docker compose on the main. If I go down the main branch, I still have that docker compose file, but it is not the same, right? If I say cat docker compose, you will see here hello world. But if I click here, you will see that we have a different content. It is not there. It is not the same. It's not the same. And if I do git branch, it showed me that I am on feature 01 compared to the last time I showed you. It was actually showing that we were actually on main. Now, let's go back. And another way to clone a repository that you can clone SSH, right? So we clone HTTPS, now you can clone SSH. So if I say git clone, you clone SSH. Now, when you clone a repository SSH, you will be able to actually commit back to that repository without providing username and password. But to a condition, your key, your public key need to be added to that GitHub account, right? Your public key need to be added to that GitHub account. So that's just how it works. So there will be a separate video for that. So we can clone SSH. So we say git clone, and we pass this. If you look at the URL, right? If you look at the URL, when you are cloning SSH, it's different. Earlier, it started with HTTPS. Now it starts with git at, but we end up with the same extension. If I hit enter, the destination already exists, so we need to remove that. So if we do that, and then if we do ls, we are going to see the same thing. And I can also say git clone and call it target again, like I said earlier. For the other one, I say target, I'll hit enter, it will clone this using target. Both are the same. And you can also clone SSH a specific branch if you want. You can also, like the same way that the same thing that we did with cloning HTTPS and cloning SSH in terms of manipulation is the same thing, but the only difference is that when you clone HTTPS, you will be asked to enter your username and password and token when you want to commit, meaning when you want to push the code back to Git, or you will have, or for SSH, you don't have to provide that. So I hope you like the video. I hope this video actually teaches you something. Don't forget to subscribe if you have not done so. See you guys on the next video. Ciao.